Today, I really am grateful for the opportunity to join in this discussion. I actually have to leave a little bit early because we're leading work groups, believe it or not, on response to wildfires that are in large part due to the changing nature of our climate. We are, in fact, in real terms, combating global climate change, whether we want to be combating it or not. And the most frustrating thing I think that I want to share today is that we can do so much better than we are right now. I have three major themes that I'd like to talk about today. I'll do that very briefly. The first is the necessity of revisiting and then passing the major elements of the Build Back Better Act. I understand there are some political concerns. I understand there are some people that have put down their positions. Having been in politics long enough, I know that repackaging and maybe a little bit of negotiation might actually help it get across the finish line. At this point, I don't care what it's called. And if some of the specifics have to be involved, including building a bridge somewhere, as long as we get the green energy jobs and the focus out of that bill, I just want it passed. I think it's past time, quite frankly, for us to do something that bold, that important for our country. The second thing is, I think that one of the challenges we must face and we must find a solution to is that the problem is so big and so omnipresent that people are actually recognizing the impacts of global climate change, but they fall into three categories. Some believe it's too big to fix. We need to help them find a way to at least focus on fixing one small element so they can see progress as we move along. The second is some believe it's not their job. They're focused on other things, and that the world will somehow take care of itself by some magical recipe, and that it's not their job. The third is a group that are actually financially benefiting from the status quo. We have to figure out a way to motivate people to recognize we're in the fight of our lives. We're in the fight for the species survival of our planet. And you either get on the team or you need to find something else to do, because it is our responsibility as human beings to ensure that we pass this planet on to the next generation and the generations that come with at least a possibility of having a livable, meaningful future. The third thing I want to emphasize is that we have the power to change things far beyond, quite frankly, the imaginations of any one person if we choose it. The United States is still the aspirational hub for what people look to for wanting change and wanting people to live up to our better angels of our nature. During World War II, as Debbie mentioned, the United States was able to mobilize in such a way that we were able to transform both our country as well as how wars were fought and how industry was done. I think it's time to recognize we need not just a legislative plan, which we need to pass, but in every state, in every county, in every big city, in every area that is rural, it's time for us as leaders to basically force the question. Are you actually going to be a patriot and stand for a future for our country, or are you going to stand in the way and let our planet die? I think that it is at this point important enough to draw the very clear, bold lines, because we don't have time, quite frankly, for incrementalism at this point. My day job is I teach at Chemeketa Community College, and I look into the eyes of the next generation every day. And while we can't fix everything, we can certainly make significant progress in the next 20 years to make America not just carbon neutral, but perhaps to become a carbon sink, transform our industry, transform the way in which we do business into sustainable energy, and once again, become a light into the darkness. But it's going to take all of us coming together and recognizing the stakes. I believe that today is one of those days where we need to make sure that we hold our Congress, as well as our city councils and everybody in between accountable, and make sure they understand the stakes are not just following some newfangled science view of the way the world is changing, but quite frankly, whether we want to survive as a species or whether we don't. We are already seeing islands nearly disappearing. We're seeing global climate change and shift to the point that we can't really predict the weather at this point. And we're having people die of heat and other kinds of things that 20 years ago wouldn't have happened. today I want to close with just saying thank you for the work of this organization. I hope that we can continue to put a little more pressure on the folks in DC, but more importantly, I believe if we put pressure in our local and regional and states, we can actually force the Congress to recognize that it's in their best interest to finally stand up and do the right thing. Thank you.